Hello, and welcome to this workshop titled, If You Can't Explain It Simply, You Don't Understand It Well Enough. This is a saying attributed to Einstein, but as educators, it is likely something we think about often when watching our students present in class. Today, we will discuss how to increase student engagement and promote deeper and more active learning with Pecha Kucha and Ignite style student presentations rather than with the more traditional PowerPoint style presentations. This workshop will consist of 3 brief sections of about 5 to 6 minutes each, and this happens to be close to the amount of time allotted in Pecha Kucha and Ignite presentations, so that is why I chose the timing and format of the workshop today so you could see it in action. For our first section, we'll talk about the what of the Pecha Kucha and Ignite presentations, which follow a storytelling format and which, by the way, have events hosted around the world within universities, cities, communities, government groups, so these are a growing and popular presentation trend. I don't know about you, but for just about any presentation I attend as an audience member, I'm always worried that the presentation is going to be long and drawn out, that too much information is going to be presented, and I'm not going to be able to remember it, and so on. And my hope is that with the presentation styles that I will demonstrate today, when you have your students present, that won't be the case. Then there is also the concern and the reality that presenters include way too much text and they read straight off the slides and, of course, lose the audience because either the audience gets bored or distracted reading that text. This is another pitfall that can be reduced and I would say even eliminated with the Pecha Kucha and Ignite presentation styles. So let's start from what we know. Traditional presentations are typically not only boring, but they promote passive learning and a lack of engagement with the material, which is often not explained efficiently or simply enough for audience understanding. And as a matter of fact, this is not just an issue for the audience because sometimes it is hard for the presenters to prove they truly understand the material since they're often overly reliant on reading from the text or their slides. So this is where the Pecha Kucha and Ignite style presentations come into play. These two styles are similar in that they both rely largely on image slides, and unlike the typical PowerPoint presentations, they should be created with little to no text, and each slide automatically turns after 15 or 20 seconds, depending on which presentation style is used. Unlike the slide you're looking at right now, which is a distraction, the audience benefits from little to no text, and the Pecha Kucha and Ignite style presentations are great for this because they actually have the audience pay attention to the presenter and not the text on the slide. So already, by eliminating all that text from the slides and having the audience pay attention to the speaker, we're moving towards the process of presentations being less of a passive activity, and we're promoting engagement and hopefully also conversation at some point on the part of the audience and the presenter. And for the presenter, less text on the slide and following that storytelling format frames their presentation as an opportunity to showcase their knowledge by telling a story rather than just reading from the slides. So the presenter tells a story and the audience hopefully is paying attention to the speaker, but only up to a certain point. And this is what some studies maintain, although to be sure there is conflicting information on this. However, there are a few studies about the inability of students to accurately recall material they have gleaned from a lecture or presentation after the 10 to 15 minute mark. This is why Pecha Kucha and Ignite presentations are great options because they get the presenter and the audience hopefully engaged within that attention span time frame, but also being able to recall what they learned since each presentation will be between 5 minutes to a bit over 6 minutes. As mentioned earlier, by multiplying the numbers of the slides with the timing for each slide, the total presentation time for Pecha Kucha is 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and the Ignite style lasts 5 minutes. And from personal experience, I can tell you that to present in such a concise manner takes a lot of practice, which, as we will talk about soon, it happens to be a great learning tool for the students who are presenting. With these time constraints, these style of presentations are well within that maximum attention span recall time for the audience. And the great thing is that with shorter than usual time limits for in-class presentations, we can also build in time for discussion or questions after each presentation to get the audience even more engaged with the material. Now for our second part of our workshop, let's talk a bit more about the benefits for the presenter, your students, as far as the skills they gain with these presentation styles and the deeper learning that takes place. The benefits of these short presentations are not just for the student audience, but also for the presenter, because the student that's presenting has to learn how to organize their knowledge, and they have to craft how to best present it within those time constraints. Another thing to think about is that in addition to learning about a topic, learning about research, and dealing with how to summarize information, how to craft a presentation, a huge issue students have when presenting is the anxiety of speaking in public. And as we know, this is an essential skill in any field, so improving presentation abilities helps all students. And even more so, if the students learn how to convey what they know in a brief and focused manner, that can help decrease that anxiety that they usually have, because in order to meet the slide time constraints, students really need to prepare and practice a lot, which deepens their knowledge of the subject matter, and that in turn helps them feel more confident when they speak. According to some research, another way that Pecha Kucha and Ignite styles help students handle public speaking anxiety is by having them focus on how short a time they have for each slide instead of thinking about how long they have to talk. And this is a great thing for any classroom, but it is especially good for the foreign language classroom. And there are quite a few studies specifically about the foreign language classroom on how these type of presentations help students with language output. This style of presentation is also great for any humanities classroom because of its storytelling format and how these presentations invite engagement and conversation, which incidentally, Pecha Kucha is the Japanese term for chit-chat. Now for the STEM fields, graduate school, really any discipline, breaking down and synthesizing information is essential, and these presentation formats truly are perfect for that. Of course, data and text are often necessary to show the audience in order to prove a point, show a fact, back up our research, but the story that is told around that data is what the audience will remember. Lately, I have been reading about some institutions requiring their graduate students to summarize and present their graduate thesis or the research in 3 or 5 minutes, and this is even less than the Pecha Kucha style of presentation. Reading about it led me to view some of those research video presentations, and I have to say, I've been really impressed to see how so much information, often quite technical in nature, could be presented simply for the lay audience, and that shows that a lot of research and preparation went on the student's part. And of course, other than benefiting the presenter, short, engaging presentations are great for the student audience. They learn more, they recall more, and they are more engaged. Our students presenting and watching presentations in the classroom will all benefit from shorter, more focused presentations where the presenter knows what they're talking about and can explain it simply to the audience. Other than fun and extending beyond the classroom, just imagine how much we can all learn from each other in any field with short, well-researched, well-rehearsed, and well-presented information. And just a reminder, I mentioned it earlier, there are huge Pecha Kucha and Ignite events that take place all over the world for this very purpose. Now for the last section of our workshop, let's move on to the how of these presentations as far as some tech tools and steps for your students to create some awesome presentations. Just like with any type of presentation or report, there will first be research involved. Students will need to get creative and involved with that research because with the time constraints, they have to research and then understand the information well enough to be able to summarize it and fit it into the format. Then the students will have to create an outline, which they don't always do with PowerPoint, since PowerPoint ends up being the outline. Without that outline for these new formats, it would be really difficult to fit that presentation into the 20 slides of 15 or 20 seconds each. Whether they want to or not, to meet those time constraints, students will have to prepare a script for each slide. And this is yet another opportunity for them to become familiar with the material and make sure they know it well enough to present it. Then the fun part begins for most students, which also promotes deeper learning of the material, and that is finding just the right images for each slide. There can be some text in the slides, but the image is what will capture the essence of what is being said. And by virtue of practicing the rhythm and timing of the presentation, the student will become quite familiar and comfortable with the material and will know it well enough to explain it to others. In addition to PowerPoint, where if the presentation constraints are followed, can be used, some free tools for presentation are Google Slides and Canva, which I will now talk about. With Google Slides, which has the benefit over PowerPoint of being free and on the cloud, the timing can be set for 15 seconds, not 20, so this would be following the Ignite format. While on Google Slides, to set up the timing, we would go to File and then choose Publish to the Web. That would bring us to this screen where we would choose the timing from the Auto Advanced drop-down menu. And notice here, like I mentioned earlier, that there is a 15-second option and not a 20-second option, but after that is selected, the presentation is ready to go with slides that automatically advance at 15 seconds interval. My favorite tool for creating presentations, including this one, is Canva. Canva is a free, although it has a paid version, platform, and with it, you can time your slides for 20 seconds each, but that happens only with the paid version. However, with the free version, there is a presenter view option that does have a timer so that students can practice their timing along with a box on the side of the screen where they can have their notes or script to use as they practice. I personally like Canva because of all the graphic design tools I've tried. I find it is the simplest for beginners to use, and it has a lot of creative options beyond presentations. You can create social media graphics, posters, infographics, even YouTube channel art, business cards, and so on. It is drag and drop, which makes it easy for new users to work with, and with enough practice, students can perfect their timing, which, as we talked about earlier, is also part of that deeper learning from having to access that same information over and over to get that timing right. And in conclusion, I encourage us all, not just our students, to at least try to incorporate some of the principles of the Pecha Kucha and Ignite presentation styles so we can enlighten our audience, but make it brief, which incidentally is also the essence of the motto of the Ignite presentations. Enlighten us, but make it brief. Thank you for joining me today.